Tethered, Decay, and Fastened Renewal by CozyEarth. Read by AJ Morningstar / Supernova Podfix. Chapter 5 Coffee. Summary. Danny goes to get coffee, gets new friends as well. In hindsight, sleeping on the floor while being on the brink of bleeding out maybe wasn't the best. But Danny didn't have another option. Getting to the apartment was a hassle in itself. The pulling and crying of his core mudded his sense of direction. He wandered the dangerous streets for far too long. At one point, he found himself standing in front of a random abandoned warehouse, core humming away. It threw a fit when he finally was able to pull himself away from the dilapidated-looking building. Eventually, he got to his apartment and was able to crash. He slept for 3 days. When he finally woke up, he was back to yelling. His back was yelling at him for choosing the bed of wood floorboards. He stretched it out as best he could and grabbed some clean clothes from his bag before heading to the shower. While in there, he assessed the damage done to him. Thankfully, his wounds were almost all the way healed, but they definitely scar. Yay for ghost super healing. His core was no longer crying and pulling, just contently pooling in his center. Good. The last thing he needed was to consistently be getting lost in Gotham, of all places. He turned the shower on cold and just let the water wash over him. His core purred under the cool comfort. He was so tired. 3 days of sleep, and he was still tired. The bus ride was draining, leaving him sore and crabby. He really needed proper sleep and real food. Also coffee. The apartment had no furniture, yet he'd need to fix that as soon as possible. He had some money left, thank you Sam, so he at least could get the basics. Danny knew he needed to get at least basic groceries, a bed, and bedding, and a coffee pot. Definitely a coffee pot. Finishing his shower, Danny pulled himself together and got dressed, quickly going through his bag to grab everything he needs and putting it in his pockets. He leaves his apartment and sets off. First, he's got to get some coffee. No sense dropping his furniture on a random civilian because he dozed off. Danny didn't need to go far. A little cafe sat just at the end of the block. Clockwork really must be cutting Danny a break after everything that happened. Little victories. As he approached, the aroma of coffee, flowers, and baked goods overlooked the sour Gotham air. Danny's core was practically vibrating with delight. His stomach growled in hunger. The doorbell chimed a little melody as Danny entered the shop. Looking around, there were only 2 other customers inside, and the barista at the counter. Danny hunched into himself as he made his way to her, not sparing the other 2 a glance. "Hiya, hun! What can I get ya?" the lady said with a thick Brooklyn accent. Getting a proper look at her, Danny could see she was an average type blonde, tips dyed pink and blue. Her blue eyes held mischief as well as pain, and her smile was unsettlingly wide. Something in his core hummed with friendly familiarity. Like when he sees Ember after not seeing her for a while. Danny decided he liked her and smiled back, though not too wide. He knew that his ghost traits bled into his human form, mainly his sharp teeth. Batman did have a no metas rule after all. "Hey, can I have a blueberry muffin and a vanilla latte?" And Danny trailed off for a second. "And can you put in as many shots as you're legally allowed?" he asked in a quiet tone. At that moment, one of the 2 other customers started coughing like he inhaled his drink. Danny could only assume that they heard him, but he kept staring ahead, face heating up as he tried to remain calm. His core coiled awkwardly in his stomach. Why are social interactions so hard? Bless the lady as she just smiled at him. "Sure thing, sweetie. You're not the first caffeine addict to come around here. One order of Death Wish coming right up. Name Danny." His voice stayed level and thankfully not cracking. Tucker allowed him to keep his first name on his fake ID because Ancients knows he'd reply with it out of habit. Danny was a smart guy, but sometimes he could be an idiot. Pleasure. Ain't seen you around here before. Name's Harley. Shh, her grin held something deeper in it. Danny swears the name rings a bell, but he can't put his finger on it. He's too tired. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I just moved. Honestly, running into your shop has been the highlight of my week, Danny answered honestly, giving her a tired smile. His week had been shit, and he really needed coffee. Harley gave him a strange look over, then let her face relax into something gentle. Ain't you a doll? Here, my number. If anyone gives you trouble, you call. Gotham ain't a kind place for newcomers. Ain't kind of locals either. We do what we can. Leaning closer, she added, Us freaks gotta stick together. She ruffled his hair and handed him his muffin. Here, first one's on the house. I'll go get your coffee. Harley sent him a wink and was on her way to the back. After a pause, Danny made his way to the furthest booth in the back, Harley's number on his napkin. That was weird, right? He should lose the number, right? Looking at the napkin, his core vibrated happily when he read the note she wrote. You're a good kid. Me and my girlfriend's door is open if you ever get yourself in trouble. Don't let the bats scare you. They're all bark. HQ. Danny added the number to his phone. Who said Danny had self-preservation? Not him. Danny munched on his muffin as he thought about his life choices. As Danny attempted to avoid his existential spiral, he failed to see the other two customers move over to his booth until they interrupted his train of thought. Hi there! Danny startled with a flinch, slowly looking over to see who approached him. Two young men, maybe close to his age, both had raven black hair and were very fit. One was almost concerningly pale, taller than the other, with tired blue eyes and a wry smile. The other was shorter, quite a bit tanner, and who had sharp green eyes, seemed to judge him with a scowl. Their faces looked so familiar, like trying to remember a dream you forgot. Danny's core was chirping and fluttering in greeting, somehow similar to how it reacted to jazz. Not that she ever heard it. These two couldn't either, though the shorter one's eyes did widen slightly. Definitely weird. Can I help you? Yeah, I couldn't help notice your order earlier. It's my usual, and I guess I just wanted to meet a fellow insomniac. I'm Tim. The taller Tim greeted Danny with a smile and held his hand out for a handshake. Against his better judgment, Danny took it. Tim shivered at the touch. Rip, Danny's last bit of self-preservation. Danny, nice to meet you. This is my brother Damien. He doesn't talk much. Tim teased his brother as he let go of Danny's hand. He didn't acknowledge the cold of Danny's hand. That's because most people are idiots, Timothy, Damien defended. Oh, with a scoff, Danny wanted to coo. Something about the guy made Danny's core react like he was a baby ghost. But Damien was clearly a living, breathing person, and Danny's ghost sense hadn't gone off. Gotham was so weird. That's rude, Damie, Tim tried to scold. No, that's fair. I might be an idiot. You don't know, Danny offered with a shrug. See, Timothy, Danielle understands, Damien said, taking the wind, puffing up a little under Danny's weird acknowledgement and roundabout reinforcement. It's just Danny. I understand. See, Timothy? Danny understands. Damien corrects himself without much fuss. OMG, you can't be serious, Tim muttered to himself. Apparently, this is not the norm. They got into the flow of conversation quite easily after that. Tim was a riot, and Damien had a sharp way of sarcasm. It reminded Danny of Sam and Tucker. Harley bringing out his drink shortly after, joining them at the booth and adding in her own 2 cents when needed. Danny felt his core perk contently as they talked. It had been a while since he'd felt this relaxed. Every now and then, Damien would shift slightly closer to Danny if the purring ever picked up, an almost proud look on his uh, almost a proud look on his face as he'd sit up a little more when it happened, but he never said anything. They all seemed to relax as the conversation carried on, so relaxed that everyone was startled when Tim's phone went off. Hello? Oh, hey, B. Mm-hmm. Wait, what time is it? Harl and Knives. Damie's with me. No, no. Is he? Oh, is he? Okay, yeah. See you soon. See you. Bye. Danny notices Tim getting stiffer and stiffer as the call went on, and Damien curled into himself a little. He glances over at the younger for some kind of answer. Our father, Damien clarified curtly. We lost track of time. We'll probably be leaving soon. Danny just nodded. Like that wasn't a big red flag. Like it didn't make him sick at the thought of a parental figure. He opted to say nothing on the matter, sliding his phone over to the two after Tim hung up. I'm usually always awake, so if you just want to chat or if you need to blow off some steam, I had fun today, and I'll be around the area for a while. We can text. Ancients, why was socializing so hard? The brothers looked at his phone, both their eyes widened. Then they looked at each other. They seemed to have some kind of silent argument before Damien picked up the phone and added his number. Tim hesitantly added his as well, Damien elbowing him immediately after, causing him to frantically hand it back to Danny. Me and Timothy had fun as well. Feel free to text us whenever. It was wonderful meeting you, Danny, Damien said as he stood to leave. Yeah, I had a great time. Sucks. B's gotta crash the party. Definitely text us. And if it's okay with you, the next time we meet up, do you mind if I look over your phone? The tech is fascinating and ah! Tim was interrupted by a jab to the ribs from his brother. Don't mind him. See you later. Have a good afternoon, Damien said his farewell as he dragged Tim out. And with that, the cafe was quiet again. Danny left a little while later after Harley sent him off with a sandwich. He was now 3 friends richer and feeling a little better uh, than rock bottom. Now, where to find a bed? Chapter 6 Angel. Summary. Jason tries to get into the swing of things. Jason was having a day. The pits had finally let him rest. No nightmares at all. After 3 days of being cooped up in the manor, he finally was able to convince Bruce to let him go back to his own place. It was an uphill battle. And Dick was no help with his constant worrying. When Jason finally got back to the safe house, something had offset his pits again, but more in a new, weird, warm way, instead of the usual angry pools that they had always been. Checking the security cameras, Jason felt his stomach flip as he watched the feed. All the recording showed was that on the first day he was gone, a bit of glitching happened as a figure stood in front of the main entrance. Nothing showed through the shadow of the alley besides glowing green eyes, the same green as the Lazarus waters. Jason felt his grip tighten on his desk, chest feeling on fire as he looked into the eyes too long. The figure didn't seem to do anything but stand there for a bit before walking away. Jason triple-checked everything in his safe house, just in case. After rearranging his whole safe house, Jason headed over to Harley and Ivy's place. The cafe was one of his favorite places in town, and it helped that the bats used it to run information through. Another nice thing about it there was because only the bats and some of his guys ever went in, so they could go in both civvies and in costume and not have any trouble. Jason was convinced the cafe was almost solely funded by Tim's coffee addiction. When he got there, Harl almost knocked him over, hugging him as she talked his ear off. Apparently, the day was quite eventful for the little cafe. Someone new came in, someone who just moved to Gotham, someone who was probably a meta. Danny is just the sweetest thing, Jay. I ain't never seen Damie warm up to someone so fast. It was incredible. You'll have to ask Timmy about it, she would repeat in the midst of her ramblings. Jason opted to ask in the group chat, choosing chaos, which just opened the floodgates. He then chose to ignore how the Bat Fam had reacted for now and let Tim suffer at the hands of Dick and Steph. They were just a family of overglorified stalkers, after all. Harley and Ivy held him captive for another hour or so, eating, chatting, filling him in on what he'd missed on his 3 days of house arrest. When he finally left, Jason decided to patrol a little to get his nerves to settle. The warm buzzing in the pits had only increased as he made his way around Crime Alley. Some areas it would be quiet, then he'd land on a roof or grapple over a road, and it would rise up again. It was starting to piss him off. Maybe he should have taken today off too. He opted to rest on the roof of the old library for a bit. He looked out over the old buildings in the surrounding area, letting out a sigh. Maybe he could take it easy, for now anyway. After sitting up there for a while, he got a text from Dick. Apparently, he ran into the infamous Danny Harley was talking about, and Jason was again reminded of how the family seriously had a stalking problem. God forbid Tim and Damie make a friend and a lot of them don't get involved. This is why Jason never tells them anything. He already broke that rule with his whole ordeal with the pits. Dickie then sent a photo in the group chat that also had Harley and Ivy, causing Jason's phone to once again blow up. The photo was a selfie of Dick and his civvies. Behind him stood someone who Jason could only assume was Danny. If Jason was drinking water, he would have spit it out upon taking a closer look at the pic. Danny was holding a full-size mattress over his shoulder like it was nothing, sending a peace sign to the camera with his free hand. Danny's smile was wide, showing hints of sharp teeth poking out, and his bright, tired blue eyes almost seemed to glow. If there was any doubt that he was a meta, it was gone with that alone. Jason thought Danny was beautiful. Red Hood knew he'd be trouble. He had adoption bait written all over him. That was trouble just waiting to happen. Letting out a sigh, he ignored the group chat and went back to patrolling after hearing gunfire. It seemed the local gangs must have gotten antsy while he was gone. It took him a while, but he found the source of the commotion, running across a deal gone wrong. Somehow, he found himself in the crossfire. Guess he was still pretty out of it. It wasn't until he calmed down, both sides fleeing, that Jason noticed he got hit. The bullet was in his shoulder, causing him to bleed quite a bit. Jason knew he could make it to the safe house. He wasn't far. He'd had worse. The pits coiled uncomfortably, pausing a moment to think it over a little more. Jason radioed O, just in case, letting her know what's up. He then turned in the direction of his safe house and was off. The gunshot wound made roof jumping difficult. The roof jumping made the blood loss worse. He made it to the apartment building a block away. He was tired, so tired. The pits felt like they were reaching out. His head was getting fuzzy. Jason wavered, sitting himself down where he stood. Maybe he could just rest here for a bit. Dickie knew where he was. He'd come help. His eyes were getting heavy. Where was Dick? A cool, comforting, humming glow came into view. A figure floated into view, sending him concerned words and strange chirps his brain couldn't understand. The pits, on the other hand, seemed to purr, as a feeling of mine filled his chest. As the figure came closer, pale blue skin, white wispy hair, a black hoodie with a white space cat, and glowing green eyes greeted him. An angel in a dorky hoodie? Sure, why not? The angel then seemed to talk again, hands glowing as it reached out to touch his wound. He could feel the bullet hole heal up under the cool touch. The pits felt calm in the eye of a raging storm, like the world was fire and lightning, and the angel was a peaceful snow in the middle of the night. It was the best Jason felt since he'd come back to life. The world then began to blur as the angel removed its hand, and Jason blacked out. Again.